Welcome back to another episode of Content Crib, episode 5. Eric, what do we think about episode 5? We made it this far.
We're now in the 98th percentile of people who start podcasts, because usually about 95% of them die after the second or third one. So I think we've created some kind of a record. How about that?
Yeah. It's been a arduous process to get to 5, but we did it. And this is going to be one of the most exciting ones yet. We have a fabulous guest today on the Content Crib podcast. We welcome Preston Alexander, founder, CEO of sorts. Would we identify yourself? CEO forward slash health.
Grand
Poobah.
Head of the Rebellion is my new moniker that I'm going with.
Yep. And one of the most influential writers, my favorite healthcare writer on LinkedIn and beyond. Super excited and proud to feature him on the show. He is a Content Crib attendee as well. And welcome, Preston.
Thank you for having me. Super pumped to be here. I was on a podcast earlier today, and I had a different shirt on, had a collar, and I was like a little bit stressed about it. And then I was like, oh man, I get to just hang out with Chris and Eric. This is going to be great. So I'm just like, put on a different shirt. I'm just like excited to be here and just chop it up.
Well, here's what we live by: no shirt, no shoes. You do get service here on the Content Crib podcast. So
amazing.
Where would you like?
On, but I am not wearing shoes because home office life. I mean, who is?
That would get you a 6-figure plus or multiple 6-figure plus job at Buc-ee's. As I sent Eric that text about their job openings, would be that kind of service.
Yeah,
you guys are familiar with the gas station.
Buc-ee's. The place is awesome.
After you sent that, and I had seen it literally the day before. I'd been by a Buc-ee's and I saw that sign, and I'm like, brisket and this kind of pay? I don't know. I mean, this actually, the podcast may die after 5 episodes. Just letting you guys know.
Yeah, exactly. $200,000.
Yeah,
and 3 weeks vacation. You just get that. I mean, you can't even get that with tenure. But anyway, don't want to waste too much time. Wanted to just dive in and right away, Preston, and ask you, how did you get here to LinkedIn, 35,000 followers? How did that start? Take us back to day one.
Day one. All right. Well, I'm not going to go all the way back to day one, because I think day one was like everybody else. We were like, oh, we should be on LinkedIn because I have a job now or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Day one, like the real day one, I was working at a device company, and I was like, man, healthcare is real confusing. And I work in this device company. I have no idea what's going on. Like beyond, we sell this widget to this hospital and, call it a day. So I wanted to learn more about healthcare. And I thought to myself, all right, well, I'm not going to go back to school to get an MHA. I don't want to go work in a hospital. It's probably just going to take a long time. Like, what's the best way that I can learn as much as I can about healthcare? So what I did was I took to LinkedIn, because I noticed there were a lot of healthcare leaders, doctors, health administrators, the fancy professional folk were on LinkedIn. And what I would do is I would read an article from like Modern Healthcare or Becker's or whatever I would find, and I would just write a little summary about it, just to say, hey, here's what I read, here's what I think, here's what it said. The goal was to have people comment on those posts and tell me what I had missed, what I had gotten wrong, what I didn't know about healthcare. And then when they did, I would engage with them and I would say, that's super interesting. Can you explain it more? Would you be open to setting up a phone call? I'd love to learn from you. Happy to work around your schedule. And some people ignored me, but a lot of people took me up on it. And so for like 3 years, all I did was like healthcare book reports on articles, not every day, a couple times a week, weekly, whatever. And then when I would see a comment or when I'd see a post, I would just engage with it and say, hey, I'm trying to understand more about this. Would you be open to connecting for 10 minutes? I just want to understand it better. And then, you do that for 2-3 years. You start forming opinions, you learn a lot. And then, accidentally you look back and you say, oh, wow, there's like a bunch of people I'm connected with. I got a bunch of followers. This is interesting. And that was day one. And that's where it has led to today.
Nice. Yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons in there, I think. I mean, so for new listeners and Content Crib attendees, what Content Crib is, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this podcast? It's to talk about modern content creation to build a personal brand, build your business, move the needle forward in your personal life, learn new things, network. And everybody kind of wonders, like, how do I do this? Right. And we talk a lot about that in many different strategies, but I think a lot of it kind of boils down to a few things that you touched on, which is pick a couple things that's in your world, right? Or you want to learn more about and commit to it, right? Write about it, post about it, and make that your identity for a little while and see where it leads.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that goal in mind is sort of like, so what is the goal? Like for me, it was learning about healthcare. So I think a very specific thing that I was trying to do. I think people are like, I should create content. And it's like, well, why, man? Why are you doing that? Like you need what are you working towards? But they just feel like they should. So then there's like their dog is in there and they like this, this is what I learned while my kids were watching Bluey about business. And you're like, what? And like it's all over the place and doesn't like totally make sense. So they make a video and they stop and they start. But like if there was a specific goal, and it can run the spectrum, like for me, it was learning. So there was never a position of authority. I never said, I know this, here's how you do that. I never, it was always just like, this is what's happening in healthcare. I think this is interesting. What do you think? Connecting with people, but knowing that where you want to go and then working backwards to what are the things I should be doing. And honestly, like maybe it's not even posting. We talk a lot about content creation. I don't mean to like be subversive on the Content Crib podcast. But maybe you shouldn't be posting content. Maybe you should just be engaging with people who are posting
commenting. No, we talk about that all the time. That's a great point.
Like that, like before you start and you think you have a goal in mind, why not engage with the people who are in the sort of ecosystem that you're trying to be in and engage with them and try to learn and connect and see what's going on? I mean, those can be, like, it doesn't always have to be one way to do any one thing.
Well, I think that's a great point because I think there's so many people that think to themselves, "Oh, I know this personal brand stuff, and I've seen all these gurus on YouTube and all this other stuff telling me how to do this." And the reality is, most people who set out to do it, they fail and they quit. I mean, I know, it's just the reality of it. And I think those that have kind of that mindset, like you led right off. I mean, I talk about it all the time. It's like, yeah, we're going to do this and we're going to do it for 5 years. Like, people don't do that. They don't go, they get 3 times they post something and they get 7 people, you get 7 impressions and they go, yeah, this sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. And that side of it. And then also what you just spoke about, it's like, maybe you're much better off just engaging those that are out there in your world and figuring out what path you want to take. No matter what, it's just taking action and doing it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the consistency part is huge because it's really easy. The thing that has helped me, and I don't know, people have probably seen it, like LinkedIn engagement is definitely different now than it was, even a few months ago, certainly about a year ago, change. And that's fine. Algorithms change. But, if you have a post and it has like 100 impressions or even 20, it was like, but think about the last time you had a captive audience of 35 people just listening to exactly what you wanted to say, or 100 people, or even people like, oh, I get 500, because people like the influencers are like, my posts get 150,000 views. And you're like, if I don't have that, then I got nothing. And I'm like, think about walking up to the podium with 200 people in the room. That's a big deal. And that's what you have access to when you start sharing your thoughts and opinions or whatever on LinkedIn. And, some of my comments, way more impressions than my posts. So find the right people, be strategic about it, but also just show up authentically, knowing like, hey, I'm here to learn. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Let me just comment and interact. Like we're at a big public coffee house that spans the globe. Enjoy that.
Yep. Yeah. And I guess go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. No, Eric, you please.
No, I was just you said it perfectly, Preston. And the other thing is the algorithm these days is, I tell people all the time, they're like, man, I just don't get a lot of impressions. I don't have a lot of followers. Yeah, that's because the algorithm is the best it's ever been. And it's going to find that your posts are going to find those individuals that want to hear what you have to say. And that's how good the algorithm has gotten. So those listening right now that say, oh man, I posted and I got 212 impressions. Preston just said it perfectly. That's 212 people who wanted to hear what you had to say. And I don't know. I don't get 212 people want, 10 years ago, I couldn't get 212 people in a room wanting to hear what I had to say. So,
yeah, no doubt. You got 2 people here. Definitely.
Yeah.
Know what you're saying, Eric.
Thank you. That's all I need.
I was just going to echo exactly
good.
what you said. I was just going to echo exactly what you said, Eric. And it's all it takes is 1 or 2 people to move the needle or network and change your entire scope of your business. And generally, if you're on LinkedIn, which is a amalgam of high income earners that are somewhat, on the spectrum of thought leaders and leaders in their role that are active on the page, chances are you're going to stumble into some pretty good opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point. It's like it only takes one person, one company, one deal to get you off into the races to change sort of the course of everything. And so if you're selling something, device, a product, or whatever, if you're a physician, it leads to the right partnership or the right this or, the right patient or group of patients that you tap into. You just don't know who's out there listening and who happens. I mean, it could be you get, 5 likes, and of the 5 likes, one of them is the CEO of the company that has been on your dream list for the last 15 years, and you've never been able to get like that meeting, and you don't know. So just take the swing.
Oh, for sure. And I, Chris is probably going to be like, I keep hearing this over and over again. I tell everybody, if you don't believe you're a media company right now, you better believe it. You better buy into it, because if you don't believe that you need to be out there, then I don't know. You need to have your mind changed. Hopefully we can do it with this podcast, but you need to be attracting your ideal customer and having them get to know you before they meet you. It's really important.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I don't mean to take over some Chris thunder, but when you meet people, I meet people now, and they're like, man, I've been following you for years now. I feel like I know you. That's a big deal when people, I mean, obviously I'm honored when people say they've been following me and reading my nonsense for a couple of years. But when they say like, I feel like I know you, just from a pragmatic standpoint, especially if you're building a brand, if you're selling something, if you just like to make friends, the amount of time in person over, you meet with people that it takes to build up. This is stuff that's happening like in the background when you're already doing things, when you're talking, and we see it in social media, like why social media first took off, and Facebook and Instagram and whatever. It's like we could follow our friends and not feel like we had to, not that we didn't want to see them all the time, but if they lived in a different place, like we felt like we were still part of their lives, even though we hadn't seen them in 3 years. And that's really cool, because then you pick up right where you left off. So it's the same kind of thing. You're turning, to steal y'all's words, building know, like, and trust, because like before they ever met you, they go, man, I feel like I've known you for 3 years. And that's a huge deal to walk in the door day one with someone saying, oh man, I feel like we've met and I know you already.
Yeah. I mean, that's nailed it. I'm so happy we're talking about all these little benefits that can't be put on a paycheck or a scorecard when you're creating content or engaging and commenting. Like that's part of the build, right? So then you get to that meeting with that client that you've connected with on LinkedIn or business partner or whatever it is that's going to push the needle forward. You building that know, like, and trust. You're getting they already, like you said, they already know you, right? It's just so important. It's a lot of, it's the main reason why we talk about video so much. You're skipping all that get to know you, and you're getting down to business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
So I guess where do you think this whole crazy thing, as far as the whole world's going here? This big, broad question here, Preston. Get ready. What is the future? What does the future look like? Well, I mean, what does the future look like for you as far as, what you're doing now and where you want to go, and what's your roadmap look like?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, hanging with my family as much as I can, taking care of them, doing the right things there, showing up. From a business perspective, it looks like trying to help create a revolution or a rebellion of sorts where we can make independent practice the rule rather than the exception, and be part of building financially resilient, wildly successful practices that doctors have always wished they could have or wanted to have from the beginning, but felt like that it was impossible and feel like it's increasingly challenging based on the system and the headwinds that exist in the current healthcare system. So, I mean, the future to me looks like a big old, rebellion of people wearing black and hot pink t-shirts, and doctors, practicing on their terms, taking care of patients the way that they see fit, and, insurance companies trembling when they know that /health is their revenue cycle management partner, because we don't mess around and we get the dollars that are already earned by our phenomenal healthcare clinicians, physicians, and otherwise.
Well, I did see, I don't know if you guys saw this today, but they today, I guess, are putting forth law to eliminate pre-authorization stuff for
I did
doctors.
See that.
Yeah. So
yeah,
what do you think that's going to do?
There's a lot. I mean, prior authorizations have always been a big problem. They've gotten worse. So I was on a podcast, or I was on a webinar recently, and it was about AI, and they were asking about like how AI is functioning and are insurers using it, are practices using it. I was like, yeah, it's pretty funny because we sort of have this like battle of AI already happening. Like billing companies purport to use AI. A lot of the EMRs that do auto billing, it's like AI engines that run it. They submit claims automatically. And then they're just getting met with like the AI team of the Cigna or United, the the health insurers, and they're auto denying things. It's just, which is sort of ridiculous if you think about it. But yeah, the prior authorizations have always been sort of a pain in the butt and a big blight, and it's just like more and more rules around it. So I think it's a good thing. I understand why prior authorizations exist, but like we understand why everything exists in healthcare until it's taken to the nth degree and meant for value extraction rather than value addition. But they also passed law in Oregon recently too, limiting ownership of private equity over physician practices. So they're sort of doubling down on corporate practice of medicine laws. So in Massachusetts already done that. So there are things going on and things afoot. I think we're seeing the healthcare system start to really come apart at the seams. Like people it's not working, and these massive companies are making insane amounts of offensive money at the expense of everybody else and good care. And so, yeah, there's more and more legislation is going to come out. I think the important thing is that we don't just wait on the legislation, though, that we act irrespective of what they're going to do in Washington, because you just never know how that's going to pan out. And you also never know what's actually buried in the details. And then when we have, again, some of the most powerful companies in the world, not to put my tinfoil hat on, but in the driver's seat in a lot of ways, they figure out how to game whatever law, whatever system is put into place. So promising things for sure, but definitely not there yet. And there's a lot we can do in the meantime.
Yeah, there's a reason why there are, I think the insurance lobbyists in Washington outnumber other lobbyists, something like 2 or 3 to 1. So there's a distinct reason for that. And yeah. It'll be interesting. It will be interesting to see how this prior authorization, when the lawsuit comes, and what it's going to look like, because it's coming.
Sure, right. Inevitably. Good use of our healthcare dollars.
It's 100%. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Preston, along your lines of your company, you had a big announcement this week, and you kind of teased it a little bit. It sounds like in the last question, but please tell us more about your official announcement of /health and different ways you're pivoting and growing your company, and how you're going to help. Love to hear it.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. So yeah, /health has been in the works for a bit, but it became official on Monday. So I people will sometimes say, "Oh, I didn't know you were involved in that," or "Oh, I didn't realize you did that." And it's, by design for a number of different reasons, but you know, I'm very excited that any constraints are now lifted, and it's been a leap. It's been a leap of faith for sure. And, we're going to work super hard to make sure that we make it happen, primarily because we want our healthcare system to operate better. And we think it needs to be better for physicians, and then better for physicians means that it ends up being better for patients as well. So, we do, like I said, or like I sort of mentioned in my cheeky rebellion talk, but we do two things primarily. One, we do revenue cycle management, which means medical billing, but it also really means fighting with insurance companies and dealing with all of the headache that they make you go through to make sure that you can get paid, and then battling them on the back end when they are denying things that they shouldn't or asking ridiculous questions. So, we reduce that headache, that heartache, and help those practices become much more financially resilient by putting great teams together and helping to manage those processes to make sure that practice is already doing the work and they should be paid by the insurance company what they're owed. And we want to make sure that that happens. And the other side is that we launch new practices. So doctor wants to start a practice, not sure where to start, 0 to 1 kind of deal. We help them go from 0 to 1 and launch and open the doors of their very own, they're in control of clinic. We don't take ownership, provide capital in it. We just help with the roadmap, the guidance, the blueprint, the management, the sort of project management of going through that process. And then we can do that for existing clinics if they want to grow, open new locations, ASCs, that kind of thing too. So that's
very cool.
That's /health in a nutshell that I can now, rant about, and all my hot pink / now make sense to people.
Well, your /health is a industry veteran of about 46 hours, so you're
exactly.
you're on a roll. Love it. What made you decide to start /health? What was there just one day you had an aha moment?
Yeah, well, so I mean, definitely not an aha moment, but it really started probably a few years back when I started sort of crystallizing what I felt about healthcare. And I sort of absentmindedly wrote this line at the end of a post one day, and it was that the business of healthcare is destroying the practice of medicine. And in order to save the practice of medicine, we need clinicians leading at every step of the business of healthcare, and they need to take it back. And it ultimately led to this idea, but I didn't really know how to actualize that. Like, what could I do? What did I know? I knew about finance and business and things like that. And that led to me writing more about the financial elements, about writing the healthcare breakdown, starting like a finance course around healthcare. But when the rubber really met the road, when I was trying to start a digital health company around wound care and providing sort of direct wound care services via digital health mediums, had a co-founder, and that startup didn't really work, but we liked working together. And she was like, well, we built this thing for not ourselves, but to serve patients. It was effectively a virtual practice. Why don't we just help doctors start their own practices and help other people, clinicians in startups who've learned all these lessons? And so we really started as a consultancy, and helping clinician-led startups, helping physicians start practices if they're interested, although that was kind of quiet in the first few months. And then eventually we sort of refined it. We were positioning ourselves as an MSO for a while, all these different things. And then as we got closer to what are we really good at, what do we know how to do, what makes sense, it was two distinct things: practice launches and revenue cycle management. So definitely not an aha moment, definitely something I've wanted to be in the position to do for a long time. And it took a long time to get to that end. But part of that fun fact is I certainly never would have met my business partner without LinkedIn, because in the most circuitous way, again, going back to the you never know, I was connected with someone on LinkedIn, really respect her. She's incredible. She started a healthcare community. It was like $20 a month. I was like, whatever, I just want to see it, because like if she does it, I'm in. So I joined it, met this other guy who, eventually months and months later, he started a healthcare community, like a free one. He was like, should I do this? And I was like, yeah, just do it. It was quiet for the most part. I'm starting this company. And this is like 3 years span. And I'm like post in his healthcare group. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for an attorney. I'm trying to start this thing up. And my now business partner responds to my request on this, community platform. She wanted to bring me in as a client potentially for her firm. And then we got to talking and it just sort of things worked out. So it's like the connections you make, the things you say, the comments on other people's posts, like you have no idea where they're going to lead. So that's why, especially starting out early in any brand building, selling, social, anything, you're just like, that's an arena you almost never have to say no to, because it's like, it's such a little investment in a lot of ways, but the return can be massive. Just go down the path, talk to people, connect, spend time with them, learn from them. And then who knows, 2 years later, you find yourself a business partner, you launch a company, and then hopefully when we talk again in 5 to 10 years, and on my yacht sailing around space or something as a result.
Well, I was gonna, ask you a question that you kind of answered just right now, and it, maybe you can spin off one more for people listening, because I think there's a lot of people are wondering, I want to get off fence and start posting or start commenting or really engaging. Maybe you could provide another example in your business development of whatever you've been doing or growing your newsletter or whatnot. Another example of really pushing the needle forward business wise from content that you've created or commenting or connected, if you have something you could share.
No, absolutely. I mean, so I'll just say that like with /health, some of our first customers and major customers have been people that I knew from LinkedIn, and they didn't know what I was doing. They're like, oh, we should talk about that also.
It's awesome.
One was a guy we met on LinkedIn, and I've known him for at this point like 3 or 4 years, and we talked about various different things. We became friends. We talked business and different things, and he was like had this great idea to start a clinic that's like really tech enabled and like forward thinking. And we were just talking about that, and I was like, oh, can we help? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I'm starting this company, and this is what we're going to do. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And so, again, these are long game things. Maybe they're totally anecdotal, but like they're a little anecdotal, but that, writing the healthcare breakdown, one of our clients came in through that. One of the folks that we are fortunate to help and to serve was because we connected, I don't know, 2 years ago for the first time ever. And he just wanted to talk because I wrote something and it resonated with him and about just like the healthcare system and the woes of it and those kinds of things. And so when we started promoting /health more, he was like, wait a second, what are you up to? Let's talk about this. And it led to, business. So you just get out there, you talk about what you know. And I'm sure most people listening to this probably aren't in a position that I was in where they just want to go learn and see what's what. People know a lot, and especially tenured med device folks or people selling into these different situations, you know about sales, about your products, about these pain points that people are experiencing, and you have an opinion. Don't worry about so much like how it comes off or this or that. Just be yourself, share your opinion, try to deliver some value or some insight, some education or something that could be unique for somebody else, and you don't know where it's going to lead. And so, yeah, I mean, those are 3 like very concrete. We wouldn't have gotten started without it had I not, according to some people, wasted my time on LinkedIn writing about healthcare.
Yeah, I always love that. I get that a lot. Like, hey, man, why do you spend so much time on LinkedIn? Like, literally, I spend probably 7 to 12 minutes per day on LinkedIn. But, why do you spend so much time and why do you do that? And usually it's somebody that I've never told them that I'm on LinkedIn. So you're out there consuming content that I'm putting out there. And anyway, you get what I'm talking about. But it's always something. It's always a head scratcher when you get one of those kind of comments.
Yeah, no one the wiser. I'm sure that there's some jealousy in there when they see some of the successes that you've stumbled upon, not stumbled, but worked hard to get, and they're like, man, that was a great idea. Maybe a year ago I could have started talking about my business in a different way and grown it. But so I had another question. It's probably my last question, but if you had to start from scratch, knowing what you know now, if you were just starting Preston, not /health, but Preston, the Taylor Swift of LinkedIn healthcare writing, as it says in your tagline, what would you do? What one thing you do differently, or one thing you do the same, or a piece of advice that you can provide to any of us listening or
Yeah.
here today?
I guess it's probably hard to say where I would do if I would start from scratch, because like realistically, I'd probably just do what I'm doing now and like not change very much. So if I could try to like just unpack, like just starting from scratch, like, so first I would pick, and I'd probably pick LinkedIn, because like, again, start with the goal. What do I want? If I'm in healthcare, if I'm trying to like serve this particular, where are they? And like, if I'm trying to sell like flip flops to Gen Z, I'm like gonna do a TikTok page about like, you know, where can these flip flops hike or something, and go do ridiculous videos of me like trying to climb glaciers in flip flops. But I'm not doing that. So it's like start with the goal. So then that informs like where you're going to be, and then pick like what works for you. So like I like to write, so I write on LinkedIn, and Chris tells me to make more videos, and I do take that to heart, although I'm working on it.
Well, I'll just say that I don't want to cut you off, but I do a lot of writing on LinkedIn, but I send videos to my ideal customers. I don't do as many videos as I used to on LinkedIn. So
fair enough.
A little different. Yeah.
No, I know.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump in on this because LinkedIn is pushing video so hard.
They are. And I'm making a mistake. I'm not saying it's the right answer.
No. But I will say, I do want to say that I think like LinkedIn is pushing video. Video is really great. It's a great way to connect. But if you hate being on video, you will stop. And so don't start something that you're not going to stick with. So, and if you hate selfies, like don't post selfies. And if you, whatever, the thing is like, find the intersection of like what you do and like to do, and like what is going to help resonate like with the audience that you're ultimately trying to serve. So like I like to write, so like I write on LinkedIn. And I don't really love, like, I don't know what images to put on things. Like, I'm not as good at sunsets as Tony is. So, like, I write my image so it, like, stands out. And it's, you know, writing. So, what do I want to be? What's my goal? Where should I say it? And then, like, what's the medium that, like, I am the best at? And then you just start and post every single day about a thing that you are passionate about, know about, how you can deliver value to people, and then comment constantly, like, because LinkedIn is great. Like if my ideal customer is the CEO of, you know, Kaiser Permanente, like he's on LinkedIn and I can comment on his post every single day so that he might not notice, but like I'm effectively doing, you know, having a dialogue. Like I used to, so I'm a big Gary Vee fan. You guys probably heard of him. So during the pandemic, yeah, he did Tea with Gary Vee. And so I was like, man, I really want to be on the show. So if you Google my name, I'm actually on the show. You can see what a nerd I was back then.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right. This is good because I love Gary Vee. I mean, I literally watched his video at lunch. But so
he's awesome. But it was hard to get on Tea with Gary Vee. And so I was like, I am going to comment on because he's hardcore Twitter. It's his favorite platform. Yep. So I was like, I'm going to comment on every single one of Gary Vee's tweets until I get on to Tea with Gary Vee. And so I commented on every single one of his tweets for like 3 weeks. And then he was like, replied, and he like hit me up and like, oh, and he's like, my producer's going to reach out to you, whatever. And they like put me on Tea with Gary Vee during the pandemic. So like commenting, like you guys talk about it, like, yeah. So just goal, place, medium, every day, share what you know, and go share what you know on comments of people that like you want to work with. And like,
that is a fantastic.
What a huge, I mean, that's anybody listening right now, you got on a show with Gary Vee. And how much did that cost you, Preston?
I was going to say, can we afford Preston? Do we figure out those terms that we got him on the show yet?
Yeah, he signed the contract as far as he knows.
Yeah. Okay.
I did. Yeah. Implied. Yeah, I mean, right, exactly. It didn't cost me any money. It cost me like some time to be like, all right, Gary posts at like this time, or he's a little sporadic, and I just like, you know, put on the little bell, and then I just like pop LinkedIn, or, you know, Twitter's hard because it's like fast, but like LinkedIn's much less hard in that respect, and you just go check. I don't know, go check 7 times a day. Like, you know, you pick up the phone and check my emails constantly. Just check Twitter, and then be like, oh, cool, boop. 14 seconds, put the phone down, on to the next thing. Like, the return for the time commitment, so long as you do it authentically and thoughtfully, so that you're not just coming off and spamming people, like you're actually building genuine connections. Like I have tons of like good friends now that like I've met on the internet and have met them in person like a couple of times, but like I consider them close friends. Like the world's different and changing, and we've never had a better opportunity to connect with other human beings.
Yeah, that reminds me, Omar Khatib calls these people his internet friends. So, and his wife says, "What are you doing back there in that office that you have internet friends?" But yeah, no, I there's so many people now. I said this the other day. I think I said this to Matthew and Chris that, there's people I would have never met in my life. I would have never ever come cross paths with them, and now because of LinkedIn, they're good friends.
Yeah,
pretty
cool. We wouldn't be here.
3 of us here today. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I first connected with Matthew Ray Scott in probably 2021, and we had a call, and I thought he was cool, and I just wanted to like sit by a fire and have him like read me a story or something, or just like tell him whatever.
He'll do that.
I know. And then he was like, "Hey, if you don't mind, send me like a quick video if you got any value out of like our conversation." Like I sent him a video, and just stayed in touch kind of like over the years. And then Content Crib comes up, and we've had some calls here and there over time. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to Arkansas for sure. I love Arkansas. And then we met there, and then Chris and I continued to talk, and Chris was in Atlanta, and like we met this is LinkedIn in action happening right now. Valuable personal friendship relationships, valuable business connections and relationship. It's all right there.
Yeah, as my other LinkedIn friend calls it, Jason Lauber, he calls it meeting dudes on the internet.
Yeah. My LinkedIn friends. It's like
obviously female LinkedIn friends too, but it's I don't know. I don't think my wife would like that if it was like meeting females on the internet.
You couldn't say that. No,
you can't say that.
Well, you could try. Just let us know how it goes.
Yeah, not well, but
no.
Anyway, not to go too far down the rabbit hole. This has been incredible, Preston. Thank you very much. This
Absolutely.
is a golden podcast that will be hopefully saved and re-listened to. A lot of tips, and yeah.
Well,
yeah,
thank you. Yeah, thank you both for having me. It's always great to catch up and hang out, and people get value out of it. Love that. Hit me up on LinkedIn anytime. Happy to, chat, share, tips or tricks, or, learn from people. And, if /health is anything interesting, we can talk about that too.
Yeah, go follow /health LinkedIn. Make sure you follow their page and give Preston Alexander a follow.
Yeah, thanks again, Preston. Really appreciate your time. It was awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Chris. It was a blast.